Well, today on the Family Answer Man, we're answering your questions about family drama during the holidays from a Biblical Worldview on the Family Answer Man program. This is David Orgis, and I am here with Dr. Mark Crosby, the Family Answer Man himself. This is a time that's designed to answer questions commonly asked in both the counseling and the church settings, and our goal is to answer general questions from a biblical worldview through the lens of our collective years of experience and education to help you, our listeners, have a stronger, healthier, and happier family. We want to thank today the incredible people at Winter's Air and Days Smokehouse and Specialty Meats for underwriting today's show. Winter's Air is located in Denham Springs. They service the Denham Springs and surrounding areas. And Days Smokehouse is located at 35770 just north of Denham Springs in Watson, Louisiana. This show is not a therapy session, and it's not specific advice to your situation. We do believe that mental health is a very serious issue. Family dynamics can be and often are very complicated. So for in-depth answers to your questions, we want to encourage you to seek out professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. But we do hope that this episode of the Family Answer Man will encourage you and inspire you to make changes that will lead to a healthier, stronger, and happier family. Again, I am David Orgis, and I am joined today by Dr. Mark Crosby, the Family Answer Man himself. And Dr. Mark, we're talking about a big topic. It is mid-November.
Yes.
And we are going to be coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas and other holidays throughout the season and talking about family drama. Is this common or are we all isolated in our own family drama?
Family drama is always going to be a reality on some level, simply because of who we are with our personality types, our personality differences, our political differences, our theological differences. And so family drama is going to be a natural reality simply because when you mix all these differences under one roof for a period of 2, 3, 4 days, with all the anticipation, with all the expectation, there's going to be some drama. I have people in our families that have various personalities, various viewpoints, various philosophical positions, and because of that, there's going to be differences, and there's going to be an exchange of ideas, and sometimes those ideas may not be agreed upon, and when there's a disagreement, sometimes we become disagreeable, and away we go. And so it just makes for an interesting time in our life. Again, I love the holidays. For me, the holidays begin on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes,
and goes all the way till New Year's Day. And so you have that 6-week period or so where it's the holiday season. And it really is a wonderful time of the year. However, the reality is you have a lot of closeness, a lot of togetherness, a lot of enmeshment, if you will, among some of the families. And there's going to be some drama and some differences that is going to take place.
You know, you mentioned that that sometimes we have people in our families that have personalities and ideas and thoughts, and it strikes me also that sometimes we are that person as well. That we also have our own unique personality quirks and
That's right.
Ways about us. But today we're going to answer a question that was written in, again, on this kind of topic, and it was written into the Family Answer Man. And if you have a question that you would like to submit, you can email familyanswerman@loumc.org, familyanswerman@loumc.org, and we would love to answer those questions for you. Today's question is, my brother-in-law and my family are coming over for Thanksgiving. He is always causing drama. Tell me if you've ever heard this before. Everyone says that he is a narcissist. We've talked a little bit about that on the program before. What can we do to have a happy Thanksgiving?
So drama and people who love drama really is becoming an area of research, believe it or not. As a matter of fact, at Midwestern State University over in Texas, they're actually measuring a personality type simply called need for drama. Not a real technical term, but it's called need for drama, or NFD. And so they're doing some research as to who are these people and what do they bring and what are the components of their personality. And so they discovered that those who have a need for drama, number one, have this component of interpersonal manipulation. Now, that's a fancy way of saying they have a tendency to want to control other people. They want to purposely irritate or aggravate other people. And in their irritation, in their aggravation of other people, they want to see them become somewhat defensive, or they want to see them, squirm a little bit, if you will. They want to see them uncomfortable. They have this tendency to want to control those around them. So at the dinner table or in the living room or watching the ball game or whatever it may be during the holiday occasion, they want to have this need to control. So it's called interpersonal manipulation.
Well, that sounds pretty interesting from a certain point of view. I think everyone has somebody in their life or has been around someone that has maybe that's is a little NFD, like you said, need for drama. But I think that's a big question: is why does that happen?
Well, again, there's some people who feel like they need to be in control. There's some people who feel like that unless they're in control, they feel inadequate, or unless they're in control, they don't feel that they have a place. And so they want to have this sense of I'm large and in charge, I'm in control, that's my role, that's who I am. And so they have this, or they bring this interpersonal manipulation or this tendency to control other people into the family.
So making situations chaotic for the group or for the home or for the family in this situation for Thanksgiving is a way for someone to actually gain control?
Well, they feel like, or at least they feel like they're in control. They feel like they're in control. They feel, because inwardly, we could unpack this more, but inwardly there's some insecurities there. And so they want to deal with those insecurities by making others feel, again, uncomfortable, or making others feel as if they're not in control and the person who is manipulating the situation is in control. And so they're basically uncomfortable down deep with who they really are. They have insecurities within. It's basically a form of bullying, so to speak. And we all know the bully down deep feels a sense of inadequacy. And so this person who comes in, this need for drama, creates this, or has this component of interpersonal manipulation, and they create this desire to be in control. They want to take over. They want to be in charge. Because down deep, I will argue, there is this fear of being inadequate or insecure.
So what can you do if someone like this is coming over for Thanksgiving?
Well, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But again, the first way of dealing with this person, just in the quick answer, we'll unpack more in a moment, is creating boundaries. You got to create boundaries with these individuals, because if not, they're going to try to hook you in and create a sense of, or an atmosphere of, irritation and aggravation. But again, the first component of the NFD, need for drama, is interpersonal manipulation. The second one is very similar, but it's called being impulsive, outspoken. And so, which is basically speaking before thinking. They have no filter. These are the people, again, not only do they want to control the situation, but they have this impulsive speech, so to speak, where they have no filter. They speak before thinking. They use inappropriate language. They talk about inappropriate subjects. They make inappropriate jokes, in front of grandmother or whatever it may be. And so they say things or do things impulsively. Again, they're impulsively outspoken. And so this speaking before thinking, this non-filter, creates a sense of, again, discomfort within the family, this sense of drama. Someone may say, you can't speak like that in front of, Meemaw or whatever. And now the drama is on. And, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so when drama like that happens, I mean, creating boundaries, and what do you do in those situations? Is it, do those kind of people that have NFD or NFD tendencies, do they respond well to, like you said, saying, hey, you can't say that in front of grandma?
Right. Well, it segues into the third point, which is when you correct them, they become the victim. When you correct them, they start talking about how, sensitive you are. When you correct them, they talk about, the problems they have. When you correct them, or even when you don't correct them, if someone begins to share a story, they automatically have a greater story, or a worse problem, or a more severe situation. So again, what happens is that these individuals have a mixture, according to the research at Midwestern. They have this mixture of narcissism, Machiavellianism, which is a fancy word for a behavior that's disruptive or dishonest or callous or cunning. That's, again, Machiavellianism. And then psychopathy, which, again, there's no remorse, no regret in what they're saying or doing. So they bring these components into a relationship. And so when you try to correct them, when you try to say, hey, what you said was inappropriate, again, they want to become the victim. So again, beware that sometimes these people who score on the high end of this need for drama Sometimes they are diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder. Sometimes they are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which we've talked about, on previous programs. Or sometimes you're diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, which is, again, the slang name, so to speak, for this personality. It used to be called the psychopath, where they have no remorse, no concern for the feelings of others, no regret for what they said or did. The laws don't apply to them, etc. And so these individuals who score on the high end may, again, be diagnosed with these types of personality disorders.
So it sounds like there's a combination and a mix of different elements that are going on inside of these people that maybe are causing them to stir the pot.
Well, yeah, this need for drama is almost for them an adrenaline rush. And you were asking a while ago, what's kind of the motivating factor behind it? And again, being in control, being insecure, but also too, there's this adrenaline rush inside of them. This for them is like riding on a roller coaster, maybe for someone else. This for them may be like jumping out of an airplane, for someone else. This adrenaline rush, this need for excitement. Again, this creating drama for them is like going to a really frightening movie or something like that. They love this adrenaline rush, and they love what it does when someone gets upset, when someone gets aggravated, when they have, pulled the trigger, so to speak, and caused someone to feel uncomfortable or less than them, or feel bad about themselves or whatever. So there is an adrenaline rush of I'm the victor, I have won, I have conquered, I have controlled, I have come into the situation and I have embarrassed someone. And to them, that's a part of who they are as far as feeling good about themselves, which is, I know, a little strange, but that's why, again, it's called, drama. And they have this need for drama because it gives them the adrenaline rush. And here's the thing. These people are everywhere. They're in our families. They're in our churches. They are in our homeowners associational meetings. They're in our places of business. They're some of them are our customers or our clients. They're everywhere you go. But they just seem to be more concentrated during the holiday season because you have family and you have, Nana over and the in-laws and the grandkids and the cousins. And you maybe have not spent a whole lot of time, throughout the year with one another. And now you're all together. And for some, there's this need to do this because it's that adrenaline rush that they are getting from causing this drama, thus the need for drama.
So yeah, how do you handle that in a situation? How do you respond to that when they are over, they're at your house, you're at their house, you're at Nana's house, like you said. Right. What do you do in that situation?
So how does one respond?
Yeah.
So that's the question this I think person wants to know. Number one, I think you have to recognize that we cannot fix them. So many times we want to fix them. We want to be, the cousin or the sibling that wants to fix them. We want to be the good brother-in-law that wants to fix the bad brother-in-law. But the reality is, in most cases, family members cannot fix other family members. So I would first of all say, and here's some of the don'ts. We'll start with the don'ts first. Don't try to fix them because you're not going to be able to. If these people have, again, strong narcissistic tendencies, there's no fixing them, at least not from you. So don't try to fix them. Number two, don't allow them to pull you into their whirlpool. In other words, they're going to try to pull you into their whirlpool and kind of bring you down with them. Don't allow them to do that. They're going to try. They're going to say things. They're going to throw out, some bait, if you will, to get you into their discussion or into their drama. Don't let them pull you into their whirlpool. Number three, don't let them have power over you to determine your self-worth or your efforts or your achievements or your goals or your dreams. For example, they're the ones who at the dinner table will say, so how's those sales coming along? I heard your company, is kind of, doing poorly this fourth quarter. And what they're doing, they're setting you up to make you feel like you're not doing your job or your company's about to, have a really bad year or that somehow your finances are in jeopardy. Or they may say something about, whether or not the turkey was cooked well. Like, hey, this turkey is not cooked so well, and how come you didn't follow my recipe, or why didn't you bake it? Why did you fry it, or whatever? So they're going to begin to minimize your efforts.
Okay.
They're going to start minimizing your achievements. Like, hey, did you ever finish that graduate degree? Did you ever finish that, or did you have to quit? So they're going to try to, again, somewhere, some way, somehow, they're going to try to pull you down. Don't let them have power over you to determine your self-worth, your efforts, or your goals or dreams. Maybe you had a goal of, buying a new car. And they may say, well, how come you didn't get that new car? I thought that's what you said last year, that this time now you'd be driving a brand new car. What's your problem? And they're going to say things and do things that's going to try to undermine your self-worth and your efforts. Don't let them do that. Number 4, don't let their method of operation, which is to shoot you down to build themselves up, occur. In other words, just know that going into the meeting with them, or going into the dining room with them, or going into the living room with them, know that they're going to try at some point to shoot you down to build themselves up. So just know that going in, and then prepare accordingly. But again, the main thing is don't take the bait. Don't let them find fault with you. Don't take the bait. But here's some things you can do.
I was going to say, because so far there's a lot of things that we don't need to allow to happen, and knowing that you're not going to fix this person,
right?
But you have a goal of having a happy Thanksgiving. Somebody might be a little depressed right now with the
so
answer so far. So tell us, what can we do?
Here's what you can do. What you can do is you can create boundaries. What I mean by that is this: you can be civil, you can be polite, but not engaging. In other words, you may not want to sit next to them at the dinner table. You may want to go to another part of the house and watch the ball game, in another room. You may want to take the kids outside and let them, play with their Christmas gifts or whatever. But the main thing is create boundaries. Be civil, be polite. Happy Thanksgiving. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. But you don't have to be engaging, because eventually they're going to try to say something or do something that's going to, again, cause this feeling of insecurity in you. So find other things to do, find other people to interact with. So that's the first thing. Do create boundaries. Next, know who you are. Know that you don't need their approval. Yeah, that brother-in-law may be driving, a nicer car. He may be living in a larger house. He may have a better job. Okay, but know who you are. Know that you don't need their approval for anything, that you're not in a competition with them, and you're not going to enter into a competition with them. But be good about who you are. Be grateful about what God has blessed you with. So know who you are. Next, ignore their demands. If they start demanding things, if they start saying things, just ignore their demands. And one way of doing that is by smiling, nodding, moving on. Just nod and grin, as my grandmother used to say. Just nod and grin, and then move on. And then if you know their triggers, try to avoid them. Avoid the triggers that, again, may set them off. If you know them, hey, if this is your brother-in-law, if this is a sibling, or whomever this may be, you know them. So don't pull the triggers that's going to get them saying things and doing things that could cause more drama.
So, conventional wisdom may say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, make my move before they do,
right,
and I'm going to catch them off balance,
right,
before they can catch me off
right,
balance. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Again, my grandmother used to say, and I know a lot of our listeners maybe had a grandmother had the same saying, but she always said, and I would like to hope and believe that I would use this sometimes. I wish I could say I use it all the time, but I can't. But she used to always say, less said, less mended. And I heard that at a lot of Thanksgiving meals growing up as a kid in Mendenhall, Mississippi. Less said, less mended. And boy, was she right. That sometimes the less you say, the less you have to go back and correct and fix. So what helps this person? What helps these individuals? What would be helpful for you and for them? What helps a person with this type of personality, this need for drama personality? They're eventually, if they're ever going to get better, they're going to need to be involved in some sort of group therapy. Group therapy will help them to understand what they look like, what they sound like when they're dealing with a group of people or a family. Number 2, prepare ahead of. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to jump in real quick and just ask, what does group therapy look like? That a lot of people may hear that and just think this is group therapy, I think in our pop culture is either because you have a substance abuse or because you've lost somebody and you're in grief therapy. What does group therapy look like?
Group therapy basically is where you have just a mixture of people that are in your world that have a similar situation, and how they have dealt with it, and how they have recognized this is a problem, and how they have recognized how hurtful this has been to others. And so they bring some of that experience, they bring some of that wisdom into the group. And if you're new to that group, you're going to be able to recognize right away that, hey, they've been here as well. They're ahead of the game, so to speak. And if you try to give excuses, if you try to make excuses for why you do what you do, or you try to brush it off as this is not a major concern or major issue, they'll call you on it. And they're not the professionals, but they are saying, I've been there. You're not going to fool us.
Yep.
We know exactly what you're doing right now. You're trying to make light of this. You're trying to pretend it's not a big deal, or you're trying to make it everybody else's fault but yours. Or you're trying to make it everybody else's problem but yours. But no, this is your problem. This is what you are doing. And so they basically kind of keep a person accountable. They call them out. They keep it real, as we say. And this helps a person maybe to recognize and realize how they do come across and what they sound like and what they're doing, to those that do love them and care about them. Hey, this is your family. These are the holidays. So that's what group therapy does.
Now, every experience I've had with group therapy and people that have been to group therapy has been very effective.
It is, because it's not a professional necessarily telling you what you have to do, what you need to do, or the diagnosis, but it's other people who are saying, now again, there's a professional that's kind of monitoring this, but for the most part, it's people saying, look, we've been down this road. We had these same excuses you had. We thought it was everybody else's problem but ours also. But until you recognize, it's not everybody else's problem, maybe it's my problem, and you deal with it, that's when you begin to improve and get better. Another thing you can do as you're preparing for Thanksgiving is, or any holiday where a person who has this need for drama is going to be interacting with you, is prepare ahead of time how you're going to manage it. Prepare ahead of time. If you know that brother-in-law is going to be there, or that, that niece or whomever is going to be there, prepare ahead of time as to where you're going to sit, what you're going to talk about, what topics you might avoid. Hey, I'm going to help more in the kitchen, this year than I'm, doing, a lot of meeting and greeting or whatever it may be. So prepare ahead of time as to how you're going to manage the situation. Thirdly, recognize this also about this individual. Recognize that sometimes it's difficult for them to change. And until they recognize the need for change, and that's going to be, on them, so to speak, but recognize that it's difficult for them to change, and that you have to, again, be responsible for your response. Or put another way, your response to them is your responsibility. So you have to take on the question, if you will, what do I have control over? And you have control over not how they say, what they say, or how they behave, but you do have control over how you respond to them. And so you have to know ahead of time who or what I'm dealing with and how I'm going to respond, because that's my responsibility. That is what I have control over. And if you do those things, if you prepare ahead of time, if you recognize, hey, this is who they are, I can't control what they say or do, but I can control how I respond, and you begin to create some boundaries, and you begin to ignore some of the digs that they want to bring in because they have no filter on their language. As you begin to do those things, you begin to now have a greater control over what happens and the dynamics of the family setting, and hopefully have a happier and better Thanksgiving or holiday.
Which is the goal, that we would be able to be in the same room as people that may be difficult, people that may intentionally try to push our buttons, which, that can be a trying thing right there, just knowing that somebody is going to try to, like you said, they're going to have their finger on your trigger and try to pull that trigger at all cost. But, I think having some of that perspective and remembering that this is somebody that probably is not an evil person,
right?
And still as much as they like to create drama and upheaval in the family system, they still want to be loved, which is a basic human desire.
And the thing is, unfortunately, the research shows that trying to love these people doesn't make them better. But I will say that, again, as an old friend of ours used to say, kindness costs you nothing. And so sometimes, being kind to someone, even though they're not being very kind to you, being civil to someone, though they're not being very civil to you, eventually it will be seen by others. And eventually, again, it will make its mark, I believe, over time in that person's life. It is hard to be unkind to someone who's kind to you. It's hard to be unloving to someone who's loving to you. And so I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just difficult. And so these are the things that the holidays are about, I will argue, and that is, being with family, recognizing the various quirks, the various personalities, the various differences that are in our family, and just focusing on what, again, is going to bring us closer together rather than pushing us further apart. And I say that to couples all the time. It's good to pause and ask yourself this question. If what I'm about to say, if what I'm about to do is going to draw us closer together, or is it going to push us further apart? And that, I think, when we pause and do that, really makes a difference.
Yeah,
I wish I could say again that I do it all the time. I cannot say that. But when I have and when I do, it makes a world of difference.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a really good litmus test for just a decision-making process. And like you said, I love the phrase that you used, that we are responsible for our response.
Yeah.
We're not responsible for other people, but we are responsible for our response.
Yeah, our response is our responsibility. And that is just one of those things that, again, we have to be reminded of, because we always have to ask ourselves, again, the question, I say this to my clients over and over and over again, always focus on what do I have control over? Because if you focus on what you don't have control over, you become miserable. And here's a quick little story I'll tell. A few weeks ago, it was my birthday. My grandsons wanted to come over, and they wanted to do two things. They wanted to play football, and they wanted to have a bonfire.
Okay.
So here it is. It has gone, days without any rain. It has been beautiful weather, just amazing, blue skies, sunshine every day. But on the day of my birthday, it is forecast to rain. And I'm thinking, why is it going to rain on my birthday? It's been blue sky and sunny weather all these days for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but on my birthday it's going to rain. So here I am, I'm kind of fussing, my grandsons wanted to have a bonfire and it's going to rain. And so I'm just having this moment, right? And then all of a sudden, that little phrase, that little principle crossed my mind. Only only focus what you have control over. And so I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some tarps over the bonfire. I'm going to put bricks all around it. And if it rains, hopefully the wood will stay dry. So we do. It rains, sure enough. Clears up by noon. We take the tarps off. We do the bonfire. The kids had a great time. We played football. All was well. Again, if I would have focused, which I was going to, on all the things I didn't have control over, the weather and the rain and all those things and getting the wood wet, I would have made myself and those around me miserable. But I paused for a moment and I listened to my own advice as a counselor, right? And I followed through with it. And so that's what I control over. I can put a tarp over it. I can do those things. We had a great time. That's what I'm talking about. Look, it's in all of us to want to have our pity parties. It's in all of us to want to focus on things we have no control over. But when we do that, we waste a lot of time and a lot of energy.
There you go from the Family Answer Man. Focus on what you can be in control of. Well, thank you for joining us today on the Family Answer Man. We are grateful that you've been with us, that Winter's Air and Days Smokehouse Specialty Meats have underwritten today's show. And if you would like to contact us, you can at thefamilyanswerman@loumc.org. Send us your questions. We would love to hear from you and answer those questions. And as always, we hope that this episode of the Family Answer Man will encourage you and inspire you to make changes that will lead to a stronger, healthier, and happier family.